You are listening to the Pregnancy Podcast with Vanessa Merton.
Hello, thank you for tuning into the Pregnancy Podcast. In today's episode, we're talking about focusing on what matters most in pregnancy. The minute you find out you're pregnant is one of the most exciting moments of your life, but it can also feel like a lot. There are endless choices to make. Many of them involve gathering information, weighing options, or seeking expert advice. From choosing your care provider to planning for your baby, it is so easy to feel like you are getting pulled in 100 directions at once. Today's episode will help you cut through the noise, tune into your priorities, and focus on what really matters most during your pregnancy. You can find the full article and all of the resources for this episode at pregnancypodcast.com/focus. One of my favorite things about producing this podcast is that I get to do the heavy lifting of all the research so that you can get the information you need distilled down in one short podcast episode. There is a lot to learn during pregnancy, but the great news is there is a pregnancy podcast episode waiting for you to press play on every topic you could think of for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Become a Pregnancy Podcast Premium member to get an ad-free experience and access every single episode of the podcast. Let me save you the time and the hassle of researching the evidence and sorting through conflicting information. Join Pregnancy Podcast Premium today and get access to hundreds of episodes with evidence-based information you won't find anywhere else. Check out Pregnancy Podcast Premium at pregnancypodcast.com/premium. Zoller goes above and beyond in formulating their Prenatal Plus DHA. It's made with high-quality ingredients like the active form of folate, bioavailable iron, and essential nutrients like omega-3s. In the month of November 2025, save 35% with the code PREPOD35 on Amazon. You can always check out the vitamin and see the current promo code anytime at pregnancypodcast.com/vitamin. 8 Sheep Organics makes amazing 100% clean, natural pregnancy products. From skincare to treating common pregnancy symptoms like insomnia and stretch marks, 8 Sheep Organics has you covered. Every product comes with a 100-day happiness guarantee. You can try it completely risk-free, and if you're not 100% happy with your purchase, simply send them an email and they'll get you a refund, no questions asked. Check out 8 Sheep Organics and save 10% when you go to pregnancypodcast.com/8sheep. That's the number 8 and sheep like the animal. 8 sheep. Pregnancy brings a lot of changes all at once. Your body is constantly transforming, your priorities are shifting, and your future plans are taking on new meaning. Your routines, your identity, even your relationship with your partner are evolving as you prepare to become a parent. This is exciting and it's beautiful, but it can also feel like a lot to process at once. If this is your first pregnancy, there are so many unknowns. And the more you learn, the more you discover what you don't know. When I first found evidence-based information for pregnancy, it was like opening Pandora's box. As soon as you dive into the research on one subject, it raises questions on other topics. You can easily get stuck in a never-ending cycle of trying to learn about everything and stressing out over every decision, whether it's big or small. If this is not your first baby, the learning curve may be shorter, but you have the existing demands of motherhood, and overwhelm can still happen. To give you some perspective, I want you to understand the idea of decision fatigue. This describes the impaired ability to make decisions and control behavior as a consequence of repeated acts of decision making. The idea is that your ability to make decisions is a finite resource. The more decisions that you have to make, the more it can exhaust you mentally and reduce your ability to make good decisions. It's estimated that an American adult makes 35,000 decisions a day. I know that may sound unrealistic, but everything you do involves a decision. When your alarm goes off in the morning, you have to decide whether to hit the snooze button, what you will choose to wear, what you decide to eat for breakfast, whether you will watch the news or check your email. Everything that you do all day involves a decision. Some may seem like they are on autopilot, but every decision takes mental resources. Pregnancy is a major transition. You're adapting physically and emotionally. You're navigating prenatal care, planning for your birth, preparing for a new baby. Trying to think about everything at once is the fast track to overwhelm. The solution is to break big projects into simple steps. Next, we will move through the arc of your pregnancy and identify specific ways to stay focused and feel less overwhelmed. So let's start with the beginning of your pregnancy, and then we'll move through some of the biggest areas that can take up your mental space. As soon as you find out you're pregnant, you will have a lot of questions, and you will second guess many routines that were once on autopilot. Capture questions as they come up. You can do this in a notebook or in a notes app on your phone so that you're not holding everything in your head. Some answers will come from podcast episodes. Some will be best saved for a prenatal visit with your doctor or midwife. And others may require a bit of research. Rather than trying to tackle every question right now, focus on questions that are relevant today and save the rest for later. For example, if you just found out that you were pregnant, you don't need to know about vaginal exams during labor. You may have questions on those, but they can wait. What you do need to know right now is what foods or activities you should exercise caution with. So try and focus on the things that are relevant right now. There are some key episodes of the Pregnancy Podcast that cover the basics and will answer a lot of your initial questions, and I will link to those in the article for this episode. You can also use the search bar on the Pregnancy Podcast website to find episodes by any keyword. And if you can't find what you need, shoot me an email and I'm happy to point you in the right direction. Of course, Pregnancy Podcast Premium members have access to the entire catalog of episodes on every pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding, and postpartum topic. The most important early decision that you will make is choosing your care provider. Your doctor or midwife will strongly influence your prenatal care and birth. This person is your expert guide, and you want someone who answers your questions and supports your preferences. Investing time up front to find the right fit is worth it. A good match now will prevent a lot of frustration and time lost later. Do remember that you hire this person to be on your team. If you are not feeling supported, you can always switch to a new provider. This is easiest earlier in your pregnancy because practices often have cutoffs for taking new patients. But with that being said, please explore other options at any point if you are unhappy with your care. Once you choose your provider, learn about the policies and standard procedures of their practice and of the setting where you plan to give birth. Policies will shape the default options, like routine interventions, movement and labor, eating and drinking, procedures that are done with newborns. Understanding what the defaults are will help you decide where you want to follow the policy and where you may prefer to explore alternatives. Once you understand that there are risks and benefits to every intervention and that you almost always have options, it can open the gates to feeling overwhelmed about making the right decision. A fantastic tool to evaluate any intervention, test, procedure is the BRAIN acronym. B stands for benefits. What are the benefits? R stands for risks. What are the risks? A is for alternatives. What are the alternatives? I is for intuition. So what does your intuition say? And N stands for what happens if you do nothing. You can use this framework during your prenatal appointments, during labor, and when making decisions for your newborn. You can ask your care provider these questions directly or use them to guide your own research. Evidence and data are important, but so is your intuition. So listening to both your head and your gut will help you make choices that align with your values and that feel right for you. A powerful tool to get clear on what matters most is your birth plan. This is much more than a piece of paper you hand to your doctor or midwife. It's really the process that you go through to prepare for your desired birth experience. And this is an exercise that you need to include your doctor or your midwife in. The goal of your birth plan is to highlight what truly matters, not to cover every possible scenario. Keeping your birth plan to one page will help you focus on your top priorities. It will also make it easier for busy staff to quickly understand and support your wishes. I know that it can be very tempting to include every detail, but when everything feels important, nothing stands out. A short, focused plan ensures that your energy in the planning phase and your care team's attention during your labor go toward the things that will have the biggest impact on your birth experience. The Pregnancy Podcast has a lot of resources to help you craft your birth plan, and I will link to those in the article for this episode. Next, I will cover preparing for your newborn, tips to stay focused, and what to do when you feel overwhelmed. Before that, I would like to thank the sponsors that have supported this episode. There are many companies that offer exclusive discounts for Pregnancy Podcast listeners. You can always find discounts and promo codes at pregnancypodcast.com/resources. If you have listened to the podcast for a while, you know that I have done a lot of research on prenatal vitamins and many of the components that go into them. You could easily spend hours comparing brands and still not feel sure which one to choose. My number one recommendation for a prenatal vitamin is the Zahler Prenatal Plus DHA. And that's because Zahler goes above and beyond in formulating their vitamin with high-quality ingredients, like the active form of folate, bioavailable iron, and essential nutrients like omega-3s. Rather than using folic acid, which is what most prenatal vitamins have, Zahler uses a body-ready form that does not require complex conversion. This matters because about half of people have trouble metabolizing folic acid properly. This is one of the many reasons why this is my top recommendation for a prenatal vitamin. In the month of November 2025, save 35% on the Zahler Prenatal Plus DHA on Amazon with the code PREPOD35. You can always check for the current promo code at pregnancypodcast.com/vitamin. Let's get back to today's episode. Preparing for your baby can be one of the most exciting and one of the most overwhelming parts of your pregnancy. There are endless products to consider, and it can feel like every decision matters. Plus, you may have additional layers to making decisions that involve factors like safety, environmental impact, convenience, budget. The truth is, you don't need everything that you see on social media or every item on those must-have lists. With a little bit of planning and prioritizing, you can save a lot of time, money, and mental energy. A simple way to stay organized is to start a baby registry. Even if you do not plan to have a baby shower, a registry keeps your list in one place and helps you keep track of what you still need. Many registries offer a completion discount near your due date, and that gives you a percentage off remaining items on your list. That makes your registry both an organizational tool and a money saver. Of course, to add items to your registry, you have to select the products that you want. There are countless websites with the top 10 list of every single baby item. Use product reviews from trusted publications like Consumer Reports is an excellent starting place. Check out reviews on websites like Amazon. Those can be helpful. You don't need to read every single review, but you may consider using a simple rule like ruling out anything that's rated below 4 stars. Recommendations from friends that you trust can also help you narrow your search for products. Then once you find brands that you like, you can stick within those lines rather than starting from scratch each time. If you feel overwhelmed, spend the most time and budget on the big ticket or high impact items. This would include things like a safe car seat, a crib and mattress. This is where your baby will spend the majority of their time. Or on a stroller, which is something that you will use every single day. Spend less time on small, inexpensive items like bottles or pacifiers. Those can always be swapped out for something different or picked up later. The truth is, with diapers and a correctly installed car seat, you're ready to bring your baby home. The rest is helpful, but it's not critical on day one. Even when you have a plan, it can be hard to decide what deserves your attention right now. So let's talk about some strategies to keep your focus on what matters. I touched on this, but you don't need to learn everything all at once. Early in pregnancy, prioritize topics that apply now, like food safety and first trimester changes. Save third trimester topics like inducing labor for later on. If you come across something that you know you will want to learn about or look into later, flag it and then revisit it when it becomes relevant. Pacing yourself will prevent early burnout. If you are unsure what is relevant right now, the 40 Weeks podcast is a simple guide. Each short episode, they're about 6 minutes long, explains how your baby is growing, what's happening in your body, what to expect at your upcoming prenatal appointment, and there's a tip for dads and partners. You can find 40 Weeks anywhere you listen to audio or go to pregnancypodcast.com/week, and you can sign up with your due date so that you get each week delivered to your inbox at the perfect time. Another tip is to outsource. Ask yourself whether a question, a search, or a task can be handed off. Your care provider can often answer questions very quickly. You could ask your partner to research options and summarize their findings. Trusted friends and family can share what worked for them or what products they liked. Save your energy and your time for the decisions and the to-do items that truly require your input. If you can outsource it to someone else, please do that. I'm sure you have already discovered that it's so easy for a simple Google search to turn into hours of reading message boards and mixed advice. When you notice that you have more questions than answers, it's a good idea to pause and reset. I have a few tips to help you from spiraling into rabbit holes that waste your time and create more confusion. First, limit your time. There's an idea called Parkinson's Law that says work expands to fill the time available for completion. If you give yourself a time limit to look into a particular subject, you're less likely to waste a lot of time searching endlessly and more likely to finish that task within the allotted time. As an example, let's say you want to find out whether it's okay to drink Gatorade. Give yourself 5 minutes to look into this, maximum. Don't get sidetracked with reading about sugar, trying to figure out if you're getting enough electrolytes, what the potassium requirements are during pregnancy. Set a timer, find your answer, and move on to something else. For more complex questions or issues, you may need to give yourself a bigger block of time to look into it, but set a boundary. And if you cannot find an answer within a specified time frame, then put it on a list to ask your doctor or midwife. This tactic also works well for shopping for baby items. Give yourself a time limit to look for a particular item, make a decision, and move on. Another tip is to take advantage of your trusted resources. There are endless sources of information on the internet, and they range on the spectrum from evidence-based to completely false. You need to find the resources that you can go to for trusted information. This limits your searching and information consumption from the entire internet to one or a few sources. And thank you for allowing me to be a source of information for you. Your doctor or midwife should be your top resource for questions. Keep a running list of questions and bring it to each prenatal appointment. If you feel like a question gets brushed off or you don't fully understand the answer, ask for clarification. There is no such thing as a stupid question. And the purpose of your doctor or midwife is for them to help you navigate this stage of your life. There are a few resources that I look to first for information. You know that I refer to recommendations released by big organizations within the medical community often. While everything is not always evidence-based, these organizations set the guidelines that most practitioners, specific to each of these organizations, tend to follow. So for that reason, it tends to be a good starting place for information to get an idea of where your doctor or midwife will be coming from, and a reference for the most accepted policies. Then from there, if you have additional questions, you can dig deeper. That is ACOG, which is the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. This is the largest membership organization for OBGYNs. The American College of Nurse Midwives is a professional organization that represents certified nurse midwives and certified midwives. Their policies tend to differ slightly from those of ACOG in many cases. Also, the American Academy of Pediatrics, that's the largest pediatrician organization, and they guide policies and general practices for pediatricians. My go-to resources for breastfeeding information are La Leche League and the Kelly Mom blog. Another tip is to trust your gut. Strong feelings are useful signals. If something matters to you or it matters to your partner, you should be making space for it. And you don't have to justify every preference or every choice with data or evidence. If you care deeply about a specific stroller, pick that stroller. If there's something that may not be super common, let's say it's important to you that the very first voice that your baby hears after they are born is yours. Great. If that's important to you, communicate that to your team and to your partner so that it is prioritized during your birth. Now that we have talked about some tips to stay focused, let's wrap up talking about what to do when you feel overwhelmed. In addition to all of the navigating, planning, preparing, you're also going through all of the physical, emotional, and hormonal changes that come with pregnancy. Even with good systems, overwhelm will happen. And that's okay, and it's completely normal. So here's a few tips for what to do when you feel overwhelmed. First, take a break. Step away from the podcast, the Google searches, social media. Information overload is a real thing, and cutting back on your consumption can be very refreshing. Put your phone down, get outside, move your body, enjoy some time with your partner. Having a short break can often give you more clarity and can help you see whatever it is that you are feeling overwhelmed about with a fresh perspective when you return to it. Every decision seems critical right now because you're responsible for growing, birthing, and caring for a baby. There will be topics that you spend a lot of time and energy on, only to discover later that it was not as big of a deal as you thought. Anytime a decision feels heavy or feels like it's too time-consuming or you're feeling overwhelmed, here's a few questions to ask. The first is, will this matter in the future? Another way to present that is, in 3 months, will I regret or even remember this? And lastly, is this permanent or can I change my mind later? Very few decisions are permanent. You can only make the best choice with the information that you have right now. And progress always beats perfection. To recap today's episode, I started with explaining why pregnancy can feel so overwhelming. I covered decision fatigue, how you can make things more manageable, tips for getting your pregnancy questions answered. We went through some of the big things that you will have to make decisions on during your pregnancy: choosing your doctor or midwife, evaluating interventions, dialing in your birth plan. I also covered some tips to keep preparing for your newborn manageable. I went through tips to stay focused, prioritizing the things that are actually relevant right now and putting a pin in those that can wait until later, outsourcing things when you can, avoiding rabbit holes, limiting your time, utilizing trusted resources, and trusting your gut. Then I wrapped up today's episode with what to do when you feel overwhelmed, to take a break if you need to, and some questions to help you keep things into perspective. I'd like to thank you for tuning into the Pregnancy Podcast today. I hope that you find this episode helpful. Please share this episode if you have a friend who's pregnant. Many listeners discover the podcast through recommendations, and I appreciate you sharing it. As always, you can reach me, Vanessa, at pregnancypodcast.com. You can read the full article and see all of the resources that accompany this episode at pregnancypodcast.com/focus. To make sure that you are getting everything out of the Pregnancy Podcast, become a Pregnancy Podcast Premium member. That unlocks all ad-free content, so you will never hear an advertisement during an episode. Plus, you get access to every single episode. So no matter what questions you have about pregnancy, planning for your birth, preparing for your baby, there is an episode on the Pregnancy Podcast with all the answers you're looking for. Check out Pregnancy Podcast Premium at pregnancypodcast.com/premium.